Happy Sunday. Happy pre-blizzard day. Whew. We're getting ready for a big one. And maybe we'll be fortunate enough to miss the big one like we did here in Philly last week, but we are preparing for a snowstorm, depending on where you're located, and others are preparing for a possible blizzard. So it is a great opportunity, as long as you have power, to get some quilting, some sewing, and some other projects out of the way. So whether you are sewing along with me or whether you are sewing something, hey, Miss Belinda, whether you're sewing something, like this is a perfect opportunity if you are over here on the East Coast to get that done. My forever weatherman, Hurricane Swartz, has been keeping me informed all weekend long in terms of what's going to happen. They have already moved school to virtual so that we can prepare and plan some things for our kiddos while they are home. So we are bunkering down. I know that some people are out at the market now. I need milk. And I'm going to go to Wawa because I'm not going to the supermarket for some milk. I thought I had milk and I did not read the expiration date on it. And unfortunately, it passed. And while some people will drink milk that is out of expiration, not I. So I am absolutely going to the market to get some milk. And I really don't need it, but I, want to make some things that require some milk. So anyway, thank you for those of you who are coming in. Welcome in. This is a Sunday service for Black Sewing Network, and I am going to be working on, my name is Dr. Jen or Jennifer, affectionately called Dr. Jen. Thank you for clicking the live, for clicking the link. And so this is what I like to affectionately call Quilt Girlies Taking Over. And, we get the opportunity to show off our crafts with the Black Sewing Network, where they mainly focus on garments, and then they started focusing in on, or I should say we started focusing in on bags, and of course, I rep along with Miss Roslyn and Kishona when I can catch her, and Miss Avis for the quilt people. And Julian just got finished making that fabulous background that inspired me to make the exploding heart like he did. So that's coming. It's a bunch of half square triangles, and to know me is to know that is the bane of my existence, but I'm going to do it. Hey Carmen, how are you doing? Hello everyone, and welcome in. Happy Sunday. And again, this is going to be a snow day for me, but I'm not going to be here all day. So I did do some planning and preparation ahead of time for today's live. So let me share with you. This is the pattern here. This is called Love Nest. And this is a pattern by a Black designer. I believe she's from Ghana, so she's an African designer. And it's called Love Nest, and it's by Sugar Stone Quilts. And she has a ton of them. Absolutely gorgeous. What I love about the prints that she used in here, which was the inspiration for me, was she absolutely used Ankara fabric for that colorful design. And her Ankaras are all the same print, just in different colorways, until she got this particular pattern that she has. This is one block, and we just alter the block to give it this look. This is not side by side. It's what we call on point. So they look like this is the edge of the quilt here. So it looks like they are on the point on the corner of the actual block. So on Tuesday, we created the block, and here they are. So these are the majority of them. There are a few more that I have, and you'll see those in a minute. But we created all the blocks. Same step over and over and over again. She calls this like a modified or a log cabin, a spin on a log cabin. So traditionally a log cabin would have a square in the center, and then you build the strips around the square. So every square for me started with this purple piece, and we chain pieced everything. Then we added, if my hand goes in the right direction, we added this orange green print. Then we added the orange black print. And then we added this orange accent. This is an actual batik. It is not a, Ankara, but it absolutely popped for this. And I was like, yeah, I got to use this, because I was trying to use what was in my stash, and I was trying not to buy fabric, even though I went out this weekend and I purchased some fabric, but that's because, everybody else was in QuiltCon but me. Hey, Mr. Will. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to make my own QuiltCon. And that's the reason why I have so much fabric, because I keep making any excuse to go shopping. But that's a story for a different day. So here are all of the blocks. They all should measure the same in terms of inches if you used a true 1/4 inch seam. In addition to these blocks, there were some other blocks that we had to create, but they were the same thing. So if you're following the pattern, then you are just making a different size and length for the blocks in order to create the next set. So the next set, these are slightly bigger, but it's the same block. And then you can see they're just slightly bigger. Well, they're not slightly, they're about an inch bigger. And you'll see those when we get to the corners. So I'll show you that in a sec. And then we needed one of these blocks, which is the same block, except this is really big. And you can see the difference here. So it's the same block, but they serve different purposes, because remember we said the pattern is on point. So since the pattern is on point, then you need these little triangles that are here and here and here. You need those triangles along the side. And really what you're doing is cutting off a square block. So you're cutting that in half on the diagonal to get it. The thing is that if you cut it off on the diagonal, sometimes it'll be a little short of the other blocks. So you actually make blocks and then make them a little bit bigger. So it's easier to size them down, because you can't size a block up. Once you cut it, the cut is the cut. So it's easier to size it up. So that's why we have these different blocks, because they're going to serve for that purpose. The biggest block is going to be for the corners, and the medium-sized block is going to be on these edges. And I'll show you what we're going to do with them, but just so you can see, because I've already started the process, this is what half of the block looks like. And I have to keep them straight because there's a different cut for each one, but you're just basically cutting them in half on a diagonal to get that look. So we're sewing these together side by side, and then we're going to add corners. Okay? So there are a lot of folks in. So again, I will introduce myself. I am Jennifer Hale, affectionately known on the Black Sewing Network as Dr. Jen. How are you doing, Shamir? And this is Sunday service for Black Sewing Network, 3 o'clock every Sunday. Please join us. You can always go to the link for Black Sewing Network in any of the social media platforms to get the updates for all of the sew-alongs for the week. This month we are, in honor of African American History Month, Black History Month, we are featuring Black designers. So Quilting is a little tough, but there are tons of African American Black designers who absolutely quilt. And so we just have to find their patterns. And I wanted to find things that were easy enough because there are some that are a little difficult. And if you're a beginner quilter, you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So like my girl, Latifah Saphir, she does a curve, and curves are not hard, but they're not easy either. So I'll be demonstrating hers eventually, but I just wanted to keep it really simple, and I've tried to keep it really scrappy for the month of February. So we're working on African American designers. It's coming to a close, but if you know me, I celebrate all year long. So of course I will come back and celebrate some in the future. So again, we are working on Sugarstone Quilts is the name of this company, and this is called the Love Nest. It is a twin quilt pattern. We started this on Tuesday. We made the blocks, and so now we're putting the blocks together, and prayerfully we will finish this quilt in under 2 hours, prayerfully. So here's this. And again, we've already done the blocks. It's a spin, or what's called like a log cabin quilt. It has the block in the center, and then you just basically sew all of the blocks around, and you can chain stitch. It's a great way to do like an assembly line, a chain stitch method for this. These are all Ankara fabrics on this side. This is not Ankara. This is a batik, and then this is just quilter's cotton in the middle. So yes, you can absolutely mix your fabric and it will work. So there is a difference in the thread quality for quilter's cotton versus other cottons, quilter's cottons versus batiks. Batiks are very tight when they are woven together. They also, when you dye them all the way through, so they usually look the same front and back. With quilter's cotton, typically it gets the image pressed on it. So when they roll over it, they print on top of it. So whatsoever on top, you could see through it, but it's not on the bottom. So this is like very funky because you need to make sure this is right side up. With this, you could play the game of either side could be the right side unless you see a little white tinge that lets you know which is the wrong side of the fabric or the back of the fabric. The African print a lot of times will do the same thing. You can see this is a lot duller than this side, but it almost follows, this particular print almost follows the batik method. So there is a difference in feel with this, but it absolutely all goes well together. Hey, Lavette, how are you doing? Happy Sunday. So we, again, have everything all together, and we are ready for our next piece. So I'm going to show you what's going to happen, because these are in units, so it's going to go like in a triangle, and then when we flip it, it'll be straight, but the triangles will be on point. So she has a layout for these, and the layout is not a secret in the pattern. The layout is 1, 3, 5, 7. And then it goes back 7, 5, 3, 1. So that kind of is what gives you that square on point, so that when you turn it, everything remains on point. So I have the 5 already sewn together. I actually have some more sewn together, but just so you can see that we're going to be sewing these side by side. And then we're going to add these triangles on the end. And I did the 3. I didn't do 1. Why didn't I do 1? Oh, I didn't do 1 because it required another piece, and I was like, yeah, I'll wait. I did do 1. So this is 1. You know, mirror makes you go in a different direction. So this is 1, and these are the 2 side triangles on here. What I need is another piece, which is going to be the corner that I didn't cut out yet, and that's going to give me the corner. And then when I turn these sideways, you'll see how it goes on point. So the triangle that's here is going to be, this is going to be the straight edge, and then everything else is going to look like a diamond shape. So side by side right now, it looks like they're just kind of laying out there laying side by side, but it'll give that effect once we turn it this way. So I can't wait to get all of these done. I really like how the colors are popping, because sometimes when I put colors together, I'm like, is this gonna work? But I just feel like Ankara mixed together always works. It all, for some reason. So I have row 1 and I have row 3 done. And what I mean by row 1 and 3, there's actually a half block here, a half block here, and then there's one in the center. So there's like 3 of them here, but there's 1 full block. So there's row 1, 1 full block, row 2, 3 full blocks. So row 3 will now be 5 full blocks with the 2 triangles on the side. Okay. So let me show you how we're going to prepare these triangles, because yeah, they're the ones. These are already done, but they're going to be on a different set. So I need to show you how this gets accomplished. Hey, Sabs, how are you doing, love bug? Okay. Let me move this one out the way over here. Now, the directions, what I love about her directions is that all of her directions are in color. It doesn't require you to print every direction out. You can leave the directions on your iPad. You can leave them on your computer. You don't have to print them out. And that's with any pattern. If it's just the directions, if it's easier not to waste paper or ink, you can absolutely use them from the machine. So she gives you the layout. And in the layout, I'm just following that and making sure that I do everything right, because I can mess up. And tell me how I know I can mess up, because I almost messed up. Almost. Okay. When we cut this block, and these are our medium-sized blocks, we cut these from corner to corner. When you do this, you are cutting so many in this direction, according to the directions, and you are cutting so many in this direction. So you're following her guide for how you cut them, but that's how you're going to cut them. And I am on the wrong page. So let me make sure I get on the right page, because that's how I keep messing up. Okay, so she's going to give you colored directions showing you which way to cut it. So the only thing, and what I did was, and let me show you what I did, to make sure that I help myself out, I gave myself a little legend. Let me show you this without showing you the pattern. So here, I gave myself a little legend. So where she used the blue, that was the purple. Where she used the lighter blue, that was that orangish greenish one. Where she used the yellow, I used the orangish brownish one. And then where she used orange, I used this. So that reminds me, just in case I forget which is which, it helps me to remember which way I need to arrange this. So I know that this is the blue that she had, because when we're looking at her directions, she's showing it in color. So I want to make sure that I keep it in color. And again, she has you cut from this way, and she has you cut from this direction. Okay. So I already cut, because again, I tried some of these out to make sure that everything worked. I already cut some of these in the other direction. So this is the direction that I need to cut in. I need to make sure that my corners, and there's going to be some overhang, and you'll see that when I sew them together. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer the better. So I want to go from corner to corner, and then I'm just going to cut that block in half. Okay, so those are going to be the edges. And I think I have one more to do. And again, I have to remind myself which direction this is going in, because I will absolutely mess that up. And then I will need, thank goodness, which I have, another block. So I have enough fabric. When you buy fabric for quilts, if you want everything to be the same, and if you're honest with yourself in some cases, if the pattern doesn't give you extra and they don't tell you that they account for mistakes, you may want to give yourself like a 1/4 yard extra of fabric, so that just in case you mess up, you have something to work with. And it's almost the same like when you're making clothing or you're making a bag. Sometimes we mess up, and when we mess up, it's hard to recover if you don't have enough fabric. Now, the goal is not to spend a whole bunch of money on fabric just to mess up. Like, your goal is hopefully to get it right, but it happens. Okay, so these are cut. And it's on this side. Remember, we did row 3. Actually, it's not even 3. It's like 5, 6, 7, 8. But we did the 3rd row, and there are 5 in the row. So I stitched all of these together. You'll see exact placement for the orange. So the orange is side by side for each one. And then I need to pay attention to the edge, because I need to make sure that I have this right. So I need to flip back over to my layout. And I just wanted to make sure that the orange is on the right side and the purple's on the right side. Because if it's not, it's going to mess your layout up. The purple's up top, the brown is down the bottom. Because I could have this look, and that changes the way this looks, and I don't want to do that. So it's always important. I don't always look at directions. Sometimes I assume that people are doing things the way that I would do them, and they do them differently for a reason. And so again, like I said, cutting that square, cutting this way, at first I was like, I was cutting them all that way. And then something said, check and wait. And when I checked and waited, I noticed that they cut some this way. So I was like, ooh, almost messed that up. Okay. So then they tell me which one goes, which has all been the same. So I have to look at this on a diagonal. I need the orange with the brown at the bottom. And that is the other one that I have. Because this one's going on the other side. It's a little funky with how they do it, but you'll get the hang of it once you're looking at it. Maybe I don't have the orange at the bottom. Okay, we're getting ready to find out. I don't need, wait a minute. Did I say that wrong? I'm saying that wrong. I'm looking at this row. Let me look at this right. So my orange is there, orange, brown. Okay, let me try this side first, because I like to confuse myself. Because I didn't throw myself off with so many of these colors. These are all the ones that I need. And that's the only thing about this one, is that it's like you see it and you're like, okay, I got it. And then when you look at it again, you're like, no, I don't got it. Move that out that way. Okay. So these are going like this. And I can see the green to the green, the brown to the brown. And you'll see that there's a lot up there that I'm going to cut off. And that's okay, because the goal is to match it all the way up. The goal is not that you're going to have a little bit overhang. And we're going to clip that in there. Okay. And I should have done the little one. And for some reason, I thought I pulled the little one, but last night I may have pulled it back. But everything that I do is going to go with this extra overhang up top. I don't want overhang down at the bottom. So then, and it's probably, knowing me, it's probably on the floor. But on this side, I want the same thing. So the overhang is going to go up top, and then the orange is going to go down the bottom. Even though they all look the same for some reason to me. Okay, so we'll figure that out in a minute, because if Jennifer made a mistake, Jennifer's going to have to fix it. But that's okay, because I'll work it out. It is not a problem. I know this is the big one. I'm not worried about that. Okay, let me pull these and just make sure I have those right. Are they? Thank you. So the only color that is batik is the orange. Everything else, and I want to say honestly, the other colors, the fabrics almost remind me of a batik. So when I'm looking at these, I look at them and they do remind me of a batik, but they're not. So these are, there it is. These are Ankara prints, and the majority of them I got from African Zesty Couture, from Grace. She is here on TikTok. She is also on Insta as well. There we go. Boom, bam, there it is. Sometimes I mix my stuff up. But they're almost like, I want to say they follow the same process of when they were printing and dyeing them of a batik. So they very much mimic the batik, but I'll say this. The batik is not fraying at the same rate that this is fraying at. So if you can see that, that's really fraying a lot more. And I want to say that this may have some poly in it, because it's a lot softer than a cotton. So there may be some poly. But I think when you print onto, like most quilters cottons, when you print onto a cotton that tends to be white, it will dull the color. I think when they dip it into the color and it shows on both sides, I think it shines brighter. So these colors are really popping on this page and even on the camera because of that. Okay. So these are lined up. Let me turn this way. And again, you'll see there's overhang at the bottom. I'm not worried about that overhang. I am worried about this end lining up. If I were sewing blocks that were the same size together, it would matter that everything lined up edge to edge. For this, I just want to keep everything straight, but I'm not worried about it not lining up because I'm going to cut that overhang off. And when I first looked at it, I thought that I had the wrong size. Because again, I didn't read, and reading is fundamental, to see that there was an overhang. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's an overhang. Because I was like, where'd I go wrong? So, okay, it'll look like this. So there's this overhang, and we're going to get rid of that in a sec. But we'll press everything out, and we'll do the other side first. So this is the process that we're going to do for all of the rows that we need to complete today. So again, thank you, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hale, affectionately known as Dr. Jen, and I am. This is the Quilt Girlies Taking Over session for the Black Sewing Network. So welcome to Sunday service. It's the Quilters edition. This month we are making different garments, bags, and quilts, and we are featuring African American designers, and also I can feature Ankara print as well. Okay, tell me why it's right in front of me and I'm looking for it. So we are doing the Sugarstone Quilts is the name of the designer of the company. This is the Love Nest quilt, and this makes a twin size quilt. So it's a little bigger than typically the ones that I typically do. Yeah, I like on point quilts because they will absolutely, like, it just changes the look just from shifting it from side by side to on point. I love that for that reason. Okay, so we have everything together. We check because we make mistakes. This should be up top, and if I go to the other side, this one should be up top. Because we can flip it upside down. So we're gonna press. I did press all my seams to one side, so I'm going to continue to press them to one side, even though sometimes when I press them, they didn't necessarily do it the way that I wanted to. Like this one got a little bunched, but I'll just straighten that out. And we'll just press those seams. Okay. One of the things that I like about pressing the seams to one side is that if I have to fudge them when I put them together and flip it to the other side, I can do that so that they nest. And then I can press them all out later to the side that I really wanted them to go to when I go to press the whole thing. We try as much as possible to press and not iron. Ironing is moving your fabric, moving your iron on the fabric. There's always a controversy of steam in your iron or not having it in your iron. This fabric is a little tighter woven, as I talked about before, so there's not going to be a whole lot of stretching and waving in it, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm just going ahead and giving it my good steam. But you'll notice I'm not pressing the steam. I'm letting it do it on its own. So whatever comes out, comes out. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to line up the block. Make sure it's nice and straight. And we're just going to cut off this excess. That's going to go into my scrap pile. I do shred my fabric before it goes into the scrap pile. That way I don't have to shred it later. And we'll do the other side. So this is one of my off weeks. Usually the Quilt World Well, not usually. A lot of the quilt world went to QuiltCon this weekend. I think I did this last year. I think last year I did a quilt. Yes, matter of fact, I know I did. I did the quilt, and then I could not call upon my quilt girlies to help me quilt it because they were in QuiltCon while I was home. So here we go again. I'm home. Only one went to QuiltCon. The other one is, she was home this year as well. Because I texted her and I was like, where are your pictures? Because I haven't seen your pictures. But she didn't, Miss Rosalind didn't go. Okay. So we can either do every row, and then you can number the rows, or you can attach. I just prefer to attach just because it's easier, and I like to see it as it goes, because if I'm not feeling it, it's going into the abyss of undoneness. But I try to finish. Okay, so we'll turn this around. We are lining up the seams. So we're going to take those seams, and again, if I did not put them in opposite directions, I will fix that as I'm going. Let me pull some clips, and because this is so long, I will clip. They're only lining up along the orange, so I only have to clip them for the orange, and if all my lines are straight, they should line up all the way through. So there are some excess seams, but I only need to clip along the orange, because I want, if those are off, then it's going to look a little wonky in those places. It's not going to look wonky any other place. So I'm going to clip and go. So I did, just as a tip, there were a lot of strips in this quilt. The only piece that wasn't a strip was the white, was a white fabric. That was a square. Everything else was a strip. Now, when I cut the, did I count the wrong number? Because you know I'm a little off. Is this 7 and not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because you know, okay. That's what happens when you don't pay attention. Okay, I know what I did wrong. I put the wrong, I'll show you what I did. I was like, I know I'm not crazy. I went too short. I'm like, I know I didn't mess up. Okay, so we'll pull those out. I need to go down one more and then clip them here, and I'll be fine. Okay. So going back to the strips. So because this was a stripped piece quilt, then I used the Stripology ruler to help me cut out the strips rather than cutting them individually. The ruler allowed for me to cut them faster that way than it would have been had I have cut them, individually. So I did use the Stripology ruler to help me out in cutting these strips, because there are a lot of strips. What I mean by strip piecing is that so what happens is, instead of cutting each individual piece out, you can cut a strip. So let's say the white blocks were 5 inches. I can cut a 5-inch strip, the width of the fabric, and then subcut into 5-inch blocks. And that will help me to cut those 5-inch blocks faster. So we cut a lot of strips out first, and then we went back and then cut the blocks that we needed and or the strips. So the smaller strips, I cut out as many as I needed to finish all of the blocks. And then I was able to assemble everything. And like I said, the great part about this was it was all strip pieced, so that made it easier. Like I said, I told you, I am good. I am so good for not paying attention. So you see, I didn't pay attention, but thank God I didn't sew anything and sew it wrong. And now I know I'm right because you can see that little tip right there for the excess, and that's going to be cut off anyway once I get everything together. So let me go back to the other side and see, this is the reason why it's important to clip or pin, because if I had taken a chance like I would normally do and I would just start sewing and I had sewn that wrong from one end, I would have to take everything out. So this is the reason why I love clips more than pins. I stick myself with the pins, but the clips allow me to adjust a lot faster. Okay. So let's stitch this 1/4 inch for all of our seams. I am using my favorite machine that I use all times, even though I bought a brand new machine a couple years back. I don't use Opal as much as I should. It is an upgrade from this one. This is a Husqvarna Viking. This is Emerald 116. I use this for everything. I use this for my garments, for my bags, whatever I'm making. This is also, I like to call it my rider, because this rides with me when I take my machine on the road. So if I'm going to a quilt class, a sewing class, a sewing event, if I'm bringing it to school to stitch some things for school events, I'm usually taking this one. This is the tried and true. I'm making sure that all of my seams are straight and they're not twisting. It is not the end of the world if they twist, unless they're teeny tiny blocks. They will smooth themselves out toward one end or the other. And like I said, it's not the end of the world. I'm not doing a whole lot of ripping out if my seams twist, but I try very hard not to have them twist. So the hardest part here now is not putting the squares together. We're going to go ahead and do both of the 7 rows at the same time, but it's not putting the blocks together. The hardest part for this, which isn't really that hard, you just have to pay attention, is putting the triangles on the ends, the sides on the ends. Even when I get to the corner is not that difficult because you can add those last. So we are taking our time just to go all the way along. To make sure everything lines up, to make sure that we're edge to edge, and to make sure that our seams are doing what our seams are supposed to do. And then, like I said, we'll put, what I think I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and do my 2 7s, my 3, my 5, and my 3. I'm gonna just knock those out. So at least that part will be done. The great thing about this is that because I'm not doing any overlapping, it is not that important to press as I go. So we're going to back this up for a second so you can see how it's starting to come together. Okay. And again, this is a twin, so this is going to be big because this is going to fit on a twin size bed. But you can see how it's coming together, and you can see how that on point really like makes it look differently. And I like how the orange just looks like it runs through it. So it looks like from a distance, and once you quilt it, it's going to look like that orange is all one piece, but it's not actually one piece. It's being pieced together and making sure you line it up. That's why it's important to line those orange pieces up together. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 3, and 5. So we need 7, and then again, it's the same thing on the other half. It'll be 7, 5, 3, 1. So we're gonna go ahead and get those out the way. So we need these blocks. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. So we're going to pay attention to where things are. So I'm just reminding myself that my purple is up top and the orange on this is going to be to my right. Because these all should be the same size, I really shouldn't have much to do with these. So I'm just going to put them together with no problem. I have 2 7s. I have a 5 and a 3. But I am going to do them 2 by 2 and then put them together because I'm going to chain. That just makes sense. And then we'll go back and then make them longer. So I can just flip one onto the other. Make sure all sides are together. This piece is a little funky, so I'm going to use that for the 1. I don't know how it got funky, but it got funky. Okay, so we're going to take this one. Either that or I'll use it for the bottom. So that still would be a 1 or a 3. Okay. So these two will go together. And we're just going to chain stitch all of them. Because other than the 1, everything else at least has 2. Make sure everything is lined up. Okay. I said I'm not completely going through a change. So I was thinking, like, what was I going to talk about? And then I forgot, but now I remember. So this weekend, this past week into the weekend was QuiltCon. There are quite a few people who are traveling home right now from QuiltCon. But hopefully, you know, so wishing everybody safe travel on their way home. Even though I am jealous that folks went to QuiltCon. I do want to go, but it is like, it's during the school year. And I know, everyone tells me, you need to learn how to take some time off. And I do. But I also had like meetings and things like that had to get done. So it's not like I really had the time to take off. Well, I do have the time, but I couldn't afford to take off because I was supposed to be at those meetings. North Carolina, Raleigh wasn't necessarily the most convenient to fly into and fly out of and do it in an economical way. Because I would have flown in, I would have liked to have worked and then left work. I would have flown in on Friday evening, and then I would have at least participated in QuiltCon on Saturday and Sunday, and then returned home either Sunday night or Monday morning. So like that was my thinking when I was looking for flights, but Riley just was not, they weren't having it for me for looking at a flight like that. And then I kind of bumped my head for a minute, and I know Miss Avis and I had talked about driving down there. I said that would be even crazier to do that. So unfortunately, I said, you know what, we'll pass. But Atlanta is a hub, so that's going to be a lot easier to fly in and out of next year. So I may, shoot for, let me not say that, I may aim for Atlanta. So hopefully that would be the case. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. And you know me, because I'm either running my mouth or sewing. I didn't miss something. So let me just pop back for a second just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I don't see it, but let's see. I'm one away from, okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So again, welcome in. I am Jennifer Hale. While I can absolutely make clothes, and I have absolutely made bags, quilting is my thing. So I do love to quilt, and this is the perfect opportunity for me to get things done, because if I go on live, then that means I have to work on it. But I am working better with making sure that I get some quilting projects, some actual projects, quilting projects finished. Because the piecing of the top is just part of the quilting process. So right now I am piecing the top together. And I'm just taking all the pieces and I'm putting them together to make the quilt top. I want to make sure I have enough left over, because I am going to put 2 by 2 together to make the 7, and then the 5, and then I need the 3. I just need 1 added onto it. So I really do enjoy the quilting. And I also, for me, like, social media is perfect because I enjoy talking. So between the talking and the quilting, I am your girl. So thank you for tapping the screen. We are at 4.1K. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you everyone who is popping in and out. Thank you so much for joining the live. I try as much as I can to give what knowledge I have. I don't consider myself to be the end be all expert, but I do understand some things about quilting, and so I try to share it as much as I can. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. They're all chained together. So I know that I need 6. That's 2 sets of 3 for the 7. I need 2 sets of 3 for the other 7. And if somebody just would get her clip, this would be easier. Thank you for the bouquet. What advice would I give in choosing backing? Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about backing. So for me, when I do backing, it could be a lot of different factors. So I'll give you an example. When I'm picking a backing, let's say for this, I might pick something that has the same colorway that these have. So I may pick something that has green in it or has purple in it. I want something possibly in the Ankara line, if I can help it, so that it pops on both sides. Unless I'm using like a minky or something like that. I could go with a solid color. I could pick up this orange and have orange on the back. Or like a solid purple or black, if that's what I choose to do. But it just, for me, it kind of either depends on what I want to showcase to go along with it, or like in terms of like what matches, or if, to be quite honest with you, if I don't care about the backing, like what matches and is solid. I knew that wasn't going to work. So, for example, sometimes I will pick a print similar to the ones that I have and then just use that because nobody's going to see it. Even if you put it on your bed, when you lay it out on your bed, they're seeing the top. They're not necessarily going to see the bottom or the back unless you flip that top down. So then if I don't want something to fight against all these, I can have a black flip down, so that's what you see, or a orange if that's what I choose. So it just depends for me for that. Do I want to match it? Or do I just want something solid so that it doesn't fight against it? Or something that reads as a solid? Because something that reads as a solid would be just as great. So I could, for example, if I decided to stay in the Ankara line, right? I could use something like that, right? And again, I don't want it to be this big, but I could use something that's dark and see how that dark will kind of play into it. I don't want this big of a fabric, but just something that's going to read dark, maybe with some smaller prints, and then that would play real nice with this. So it just depends on what I'm doing. There are other quilts where I use the same line. And what I mean by the same line is sometimes, you know, if you buy something, you get it from Venertex and they have like 20 prints in the collection, you might decide to use the back that matches the collection so that you're guaranteed that it matches. So it just depends on like what your preference is in terms of what you want to use. Now, here's the real deal, right? Backing is expensive. I've already paid a lot to make the quilt. So sometimes I'm going to get whatever is available that works for the quilt that I'm making. And I may go take the quilt sometimes, and that's why quilt tops may take me a long time to quilt. I may go into the quilt shop, go right to the sales section, and find something that works. And when I mean works, it might not match completely, but it's going to work for that. That's not going to cost me as much money. I think, and I need to look at the pattern, but I want to say like to finish this quilt for a twin, I'm probably going to need 5 yards of fabric for the backing. And the good thing about Ankara is that 5 yards is a flat, which may only run me about 35. If I get quilter's cotton, that's going to run me 10 a yard, at least 13, 15, depending on the shop, a yard. And so now we're talking like almost this is closer to 75. So it like those are some of the things that I'm thinking about when I'm making the decisions for what I want the back to look like. And I don't know, did they put the back on here? They should have, and I don't see it. They told me how to cut all the fabrics. Huh, that's interesting. She didn't tell me how much to get for the back. Maybe it's on the last page. But typically, when you're doing a twin, it's somewhere around 5-ish yards, depending on how wide it is for the back. So yeah, 67 by 85. So it's about 5.5 yards that you would need for the back. So again, it's going to depend on pockets. It's going to depend on what people want, because I may have somebody that wants a quilt and they're going to say to me, you know, that's a little expensive, right? So where can I cut the budget? I can cut the budget in what I spend on the back. Okay, so this is 2, this is 4. I moved some of my blocks out the way, so I just need to get those blocks back. So this is 2. Oh, here they are. Duh. This is 2, 4, so I just need one more on each of these to give me the 3 and the 5. So then again, if I'm looking financially into things, I might go to the Lobby of Hobby, and they usually will have a sale. They're what, 30% now? And what they will do is that 30% off of 8, or is it 9? Man, no, maybe it's 11. It's 11 a yard, right? Because the quilt shops are like 20. If I take it off of that, it'll come down to about 80 a yard, and that is a much cheaper price for the backing. So the quality may not be the same. And that backing might, after several washes, may absolutely fade at a different rate than the front will. But it will save me some money for that backing. So if I'm looking for the backing to save money there, then I will do that. And I say all these different ways because this is what I think about when I do this. It depends on, like I said, it depends on the project. So this particular project, like, I might give this away or I might keep it. If I decide to give it away, gift it, prize, whatever it's going to be, then I might decide that if it's a prize that I want it to look a certain way, and then I may just say, you know what, let me use something great. But again, like I said, with Ankara fabric, I can just use their flat, and that's cheaper than any other method that I would use. So this is 1, 2. So my 3 is done. I click that just so that I know that's the 3. And I think this is the 5. And this is the 5. So I have a 3 done and I have a 5 done. Okay, so 3, 5. I have 2 7s that I need to be done. Here's my 2 6s, so we can get the 7 done. Okay. Yeah, one of the things that we always say is that quilting isn't cheap. And hey, Nikki, so because quilting is not cheap, hey, Armina, it makes it very difficult, you know, to try to cut corners wherever you can so that you're not spending a ton of money. Awesome. How are you doing? And I want to say that's Babsy. So welcome to the first time. Just want to make sure that I got all those comments in. Thank you, Cassie, for your daily heart me. And I think I caught up. No problem. Okay. Levette said thank you. So, you know, like I said, I try to cut corners as much as possible. You will see that I will, however, spend like a ton of money, right? Because if I'm going to the quilt shops, because I do believe in supporting small businesses, if I go to the quilt shops, then like the fabric is much more expensive than if I were to go to Wally World, the Lobby of Hobby. Even when JoJo's was around, it's a lot more expensive because this is a small business, and so they can't do the same that a big store could do, a big box store could do, because they can't carry that inventory. And a lot of times when they are buying things that they think that quilters want, that's why they end up going on sale, or they end up doing something else with it, having specials and things like that, because they have this stuff and it's sitting and it's not turning over as fast as they like. So then you offer things like classes, because if you offer the class and it comes with a kit, then you at least know that you can recoup the fabric from that. You know, if you have enough stuff when you offer a class, that if the people are coming into your shop to take the class, then a lot of times they're going to go and buy fabric from you too, because, you know, it's right there. It's convenient. If you make it appealing in the shop, just keep dropping those on the floor. Then they're going to come in and they're going to shop. So like when I do sit and sews at different places, it's almost guaranteed that I'm going to look around. This is 6 now, so I need one more to make that 7. So it's a great marketing strategy to get people to come in and to purchase items. But like I said, like the overhead is like, whew. Now there are places like if you go to Lancaster, for some reason, and I don't know, I really think like maybe like all those stores, like the Amish are probably sitting around and saying, we're all going to buy this fabric and then we're going to share it. And so I think they probably buy in bulk. And that's how they're able to keep their prices a little lower than most other places. Because if I go there, I'm like, how is your stuff cheaper here than it is someplace else? And I'm not mad at you, because if you co-op that stuff in a group, hey. Like I really think like Burkholders could be the supplier for Old Country Store, like some of those other places, so that they could have enough coming through. But they're also known like for their quilting and for their quilting fabrics. So I think that they also can buy in a huger quantity than a traditional brick and mortar that is smaller. And then there are those that sell online, but we know how we feel about online shopping, because then you don't get to feel the fabric. And sometimes it's just as important to be able to feel it, because I want to know that I'm getting quality. Otherwise, if, you know, I'm just going to close my eyes and pick whatever, then I can just shop wherever. And it is what it is, because I'm not worried about a certain type of fabric. A lot of times, you know, when you, like I think about like t-shirts, I was using Gildan, and then a certain type of Gildan that I was using, you know, when you go to one of those stores and they're like 5 for $10 and you're like, yeah, that's cheap. But then when you go to wash it, it's all hard, and you're like, wow, like I gotta really iron this and do some stuff with it. But then when you get the Bella canvas, you end up not needing, like it doesn't, it almost like the wrinkles fall out of it. But you're paying a little bit more for a different quality and possibly a different blend. So there's nothing wrong with the Gildan t-shirt. It's fine. And it's going to serve its purpose for what I needed to do. But at the same time, it, you know, like I said, I'm going to get a different feel. And so that's the same way with like buying quilter's cotton. I can get a quilt, whether it be the back or the front, the whole thing, and spend a fraction of the cost at the lobby or at Wally than I could going to a quilt shop. But at the same time, you know, it's going to have a different feel. And the people who you make the quilt for, 9 times out of 10, are not even going to know where you bought the fabric from. Unless they're quilters or they're sewers. Then they might be able to say, this is Walmart fabric. And that's not because of the feel, right? That's just because maybe that's where they've shopped. And again, they don't know any different in some cases, and they're okay with the fabric for Walmart shop. So they say, that, you know, because we have a preference and because we say stuff like that as quilters, they call us snobs. Because it's like, you know, I only get my stuff from the quilters, from a, you know, quilt shop. I only buy quilters cotton. I don't know why when I try, it is not a problem anytime. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday. The old country store in a log cabin just yesterday. Oh, I thought about traveling yesterday and I was like, girl, I couldn't get out the house to even make it to Delaware. Like I made it to Delaware, but I was like, it took everything in me to get to Delaware. I was like, okay, so you're just going to Delaware. You don't need to go. Plus, if I go out to Lancaster, I'll be in everybody's shop. So I would have been in Old Country Log Cabin. Bird in Hand is not too far down the road, like they're all on the same stretch. So I would have been to all of them and would have spent like mad money. So I was like, yeah, let me go to Hayes, because Hayes is close and I can get that out of the way quickly. Okay, so my 7s are done. So I have, we said 2 7s, a 5, a 3, and I have the 1 over here. So all my rows in theory are done. Remember, this is on point. So the row is not going to look like this. The row is going to come off of each one of these, but we start off with the traditional row to get it done and then add those triangles on at the end. Okay. Again, for my station break, I am Jennifer Hale, Dr. Hale, Dr. Jen, affectionately known. We are making the Love Nest twin quilt pattern. This is by Sugarstone Quilts. These are Black designers for the month of February. As a part of the Black Sewing Network, we are focusing in on African American and, or if you want to call us, Black designers. Either one is fine. We use them interchangeably. Depends on how people identify. But this is what we're working on. So this is the pattern I chose. It is an easy pattern. It's a simple block. Let me just make sure I put this in the right order, because some of us will mix up the order. Okay, so it is an easy block. This is the block. And it is a play on the log cabin. So you start with the center white block, and then we took purple, and then we brought in this green over here, the orange down the bottom, and then finished off with this one. All of the colors except for this orange are Ankara, and the white. The white is just a regular quilter's cotton, and this is a batik. So I went through my stash. I did not pick out fabrics to make the quilt. From a shop, I just went through my stash, and because I have tons of fabric in my stash and I can't seem to stop spending money with Grace for African Zesty Couture to get the Ankara print, yeah, there was no reason why I needed to go out shopping. So I had everything already in my stash. I shopped my stash. What? How'd that happen? Carmen! Look, Carmen be doing some stuff, and I don't know. Okay. Anyway. Did she? I didn't know. Okay. Okay. I love it. Okay, we got a discount code. Okay. I missed that memo. I absolutely missed that memo. Okay, not a problem. But it's not for, anyway, it's not for me, right? It is for the purpose of everybody else. So yes, there's, what is that? Love Nest 25. I have to add that to my Love Nest BSN. So I'll add that to the spiel, and then I'll make sure that I also post that as I post the quilt and everything else. So I'll make sure I do that. Anyway. See what happens when you don't pay attention. Okay, so we have, what do we say? We have, this one is 7, right? So I have my 7s finished, I have my 5s finished, and I have my 3s finished. 1 is a single block by itself, so there was nothing that I needed to finish there. Okay, so we have the 1, we have 3, 5, and then 2 7s. Remember, we automatically started the blow here. So we already have rows 1, 3, 5 that are together to start our on point. So it's like a third done, if you will. So now it's time to add those triangles. So we're going to bring these triangles back into play. That's because I need to do a better job of reaching out to people and telling them that I'm using their patterns to promote them. Because last year, what did I do last year? Last year I did the star, the radiant star, and Miss Geraldine was like, "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to do it." I was like, Miss Geraldine, what can I say? So anyway, so going back again, we have the layout here, and I need to pay attention to the layout. I know what I've done so far. I am checking off what I've done so that way I keep everything straight. The only thing that I'm not doing right now are these corners, because I'm going to cut those corners last, and that's going to be cut out of the biggest block. So I need to turn this sideways, because again, when I don't turn it sideways, I can't see what I'm doing. On one corner is a corner triangle, and then the other one is, it has the regular triangle that I need on this side. So I need a corner up here. So I'm not going to need a triangle on this side of the 7. So let me put my 3 back, because I'm still working on the 7. And then I need the square that's going to go on this side. Okay, so I know my burgundies are up top. These are the triangles that I have left. I know that for this one, I need that green and orange. And I can just kind of tell from the colors, because that's the easiest way for me to remember than for me to do it any other way. And it's like, it's not even a green and orange. It's like a green and a... It's a green and a brown. I'm going to check to make sure that this is straight. So I have the brown down here. The brown matches this. The green here is the green on this side with the orange in the center. So I know this is going to work. I can go ahead and flip this over. And you know, in my old age, I forget. So what I am going to do is write that down, because I will forget. Okay. So Sabs is sewing something with, hey, Eves, Sabs is sewing with some of Grace's fabric while we're watching. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. And I don't know who's blessing anything, because I don't know who Ralph is. So I don't know that I would trust that. Just saying. Okay. Again, we're making sure that the flat end is straight. And we're going to go all the way up. And we know that we're going to have overhang at the top. Okay. You can see the overhang again. I'm not going to have it on the other side, because that's going to be a corner. I'm going to line my ruler up with the edge. We're going to get it there. We're going to get it there. Okay. And then I'm just going to take that off. I slice these up. You don't want to see what the bucket looks like right now, but they're going in my bucket. So, well, let me attach. I'm going to press these, but let me attach this. Let me show you my bucket. Because I know how badly I want to see this bucket. So, last month was National Popcorn Month. And Lowe's had pink buckets. Well, they had blue ones too, but they had these pink ones. And so if you took this to the Cinemark, I think it was, they filled it up with popcorn for you for $5. So you know what Greedy did. So Greedy had this bucket. So all of Greedy's scraps are in this bucket. And when I get enough of them, then I stuff, I make pillows and I stuff this in the pillows. So I put all my batting in there. All of my fabric scraps, my thread scraps, all that goes into that bucket rather than to a landfill. Terrence, wouldn't you be proud of me? That all goes into there, and then I'm able to use it for something rather than throwing it away. So I got the idea of putting them in a pillow from Mr. Will, and I was like, ooh, good idea. And so that's what I save them for, and that's what I do. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, and now I have a bucket for every year that I decide to go to the Cinemark to get some popcorn for whatever they're charging it for. And yes, before you ask, I ate all that popcorn. Yes, I did. I absolutely did. And my colleagues talked about me, and I didn't care. They were like, you didn't even bring in popcorn for us? My vice is popcorn. I don't have to eat any other food other than popcorn. We're clipping this together again. And again, we're going to have overhang, which is fine. We're making sure that the oranges line up because that's going to be our continuous line. Look, I ain't gonna lie. I said, even though when Coco said that pillow was heavy, oh, she never lied. The fabric is heavy, but I don't have to buy pillow forms. So, and then it's easy because I can give the pillow away. I use a lot of scraps to make the pillows. Sometimes I have enough scraps that I can make a pillow a little bit more fancier from some of the scraps that I have in my stash. And sometimes it is just scrappy. So it really doesn't matter, but I wouldn't ship the pillow because it's so heavy, but I would absolutely ship the pillowcase. And I would give somebody locally the pillows just because they're, like I said, they're so heavy. I could drop it off to you. I don't know about putting it in the mail. I can give you 5 pillowcases for what I would have to mail one off for. But it's, like I said, it's a great way. Like I only keep big scraps now. And I use big scraps for applique. I believe that's probably what I'm going to work on Tuesday. I found another pattern, and it's an applique pattern. And I'm like, oh, that would be perfect. And I can use my scrap fabric to do that. Okay. So you can see now it's getting big. Okay. And we have a lot of overhang here, which is fine. So it's not lining up, but we're going to end up cutting that off when I add that corner to it. Well, we can cut it off ahead of time, so it's going to get cut off, but I don't have to worry about it because there's a corner piece that I'm going to add to it. And for the naysayers in the group, this is straight, right? So the only thing that's going to throw you off are these triangles, but you're going to take your time. And if you take your time, this is easy. Now, the other great thing about this is that we talk a lot about hacking a pattern in in the bag making world and in the garment world. And the great thing is that quilt patterns can be hacked too. So you can make the quilt bigger or smaller if that's what works for you. So this did not have to be a twin. This absolutely could have been a throw, which is a little shorter than a twin. This could have been a baby quilt. I could make a king size quilt. I can take the measurements of the blocks and I can reduce them. And I would have to do that work on a grid for me to figure it out. But if I reduce them, I can make this into a smaller quilt, so it could be a matching pillow, or it could be a pillowcase that matches with it. I hate when thread gets stuck. There we go. So they're like, you don't have to live with what the person gives you. So if you're like, I don't need a twin, or a twin is too small, you can add some additional rows, and you just have to figure out the math for it to make it bigger. So the twin is not going to fit on my bed. I have a king size bed because my husband, God rest his soul, was a big boy. And between him and me, yeah, queen wasn't going to work. A full wouldn't have worked. And we needed every bit of that king just to lay comfortably. So when I put things on that bed, like I don't make quilts for the most part for that bed because it's so big. But if I'm snuggling up, it could be anywhere from a full to a twin because that's big enough to cover me wherever I'm trying to snuggle up. So if I take a quilt to a friend's house, because maybe my friends don't like to turn on the heat as much as I do, and ain't no shame in my game in telling them that they don't like to turn on the heat as much as I do, so I bring a quilt with me. When I go to my hairdresser appointments, she's usually not ready for me when I get there, which is fine because I'm late usually when I go. So she has a big old sofa, and you know who will sit right there and will be snoring until she's ready for her to, you know, get her hair done. Last night, not last night, was it last night? Friday night, I was rocked out. She was like, "Ooh, what'd they do to you today?" It was like nothing. I was just tired. Okay. So half of this now is done. As I'm stepping on things that I finished. What do you call those things? Clips that are on my floor. We got to go the right way. So, and of course I could show it, you know, from a different angle, but half of it is done. I have 1, 3, 5, 7. So that means that the other side is going to go 1, 3, 5, 7, and then I can put the two halves together. So traditionally, when you make a quilt of this type, usually what they will do is they will tell you build to the center or build two separate pieces and then put them together rather than staggering all the way down. It's not the end of the world depending on how you do it, but that's the way these directions go. So they have me doing rows 5, 6, 7, 8. I did this in a different order, and then they have me doing rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and row 1 is another 7. So I did it in the opposite order just because visually I see from top to bottom, but I kept it in the order that she has in the pattern. Because again, I can mess up and I need to make sure that I'm following the directions. And I do like to repeat that that's what I'm going to do. What's going in the white centers? I haven't decided yet. So, Papa Doc, I'm going to be honest with you. For me, I'm learning how to quilt using a long arm. So these are dotted white on white. So I'm absolutely not with 32 blocks going to draw some sort of figure, put a applique. We're not doing that. Even though I could, but I'm not doing that for this. So I may have some sort of, if I choose to do the ruler work, I may choose to do like some sort of floral design in the center that will just be stitched out. And so I may figure out like how to do that. And then out here, just meander some sort of something in this part and really have a little bit more of an intricate stitch design on from my long arm in this. But I'm not going to put some sort of figure that is going to require, like, let's say embroidery. But I will say this, you could. And I have a friend, she has like dancers that she embroidered, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. If you do that, my suggestion is that if you're going to keep the stabilizer in, I would run the stabilizer the length of the white so that on every one, you don't see the cutouts coming out around it, if that's what you're going to do. That's just my suggestion. Hey, RV. So I like the white just the way that it is. And I like it also in how she did hers. I really can't see. I really can't see what, yes, I can. So if you go onto to Sugar Stone's website and you look, she just did flowers and leaves, or it looks like hearts. They're probably like when we make the leaf, it's like a heart, and then you come out of the center of that heart. So it looks like that. So it looks like that's what she did all the way around. So she just did a general design all the way around, but she left that white alone. So if she left it alone, I'm gonna leave it alone. But you could do something else if that's what you choose. Okay, so now I need to look at this pattern again. I'm going to focus on my second 7. My second 7 is flat down this end, so I don't need to add anything to this end. So the only end that I'm working with is this end. So this is the only one that needs a triangle. And I need to, it looks like it is purple and orange. So this now is going to go in a different direction because of where it's situated on the actual quilt. So they're not, this is when you really you have to pay attention because it's shifting directions. And that's why I'm taking the time to make sure that I show you that I'm looking at this, because I don't want you to think that I'm not paying attention to directions, because to know a lot of us, we're notorious for not reading directions, and you absolutely have to read it. Okay, there we go. So I don't have one. The 7s only have a triangle on one side. And that's because it's going to butt right up in when they come together. It's going to make that one with 2 triangles on both sides. And then I just need a corner triangle to go up to make that end. And you'll see that. I'll show you how that looks, because I'll keep track of time. And then if time gets beside me, I'll show you how the corners work, because this is the same thing over and over again. So we're not changing a technique. We're not doing anything differently. We are doing the same thing. So when we did the blocks on Tuesday, when we started this, I was like, yeah, I don't have to show you all those blocks because it was the same thing over and over and over again. So we talked about the tips and tricks, but we didn't have to make all the blocks online. And then I sat offline and finished the rest of those blocks up. Okay. So that end is there. And again, what I like about especially this fabric, it's a little stiffer. I can finger press this. I really don't have to press this with the iron every single time. Something fell on the floor. On the other side, and I don't know what it was, but we're not getting up to see, and we're hoping that it's not something that we needed. We'll line this up on the edge, and then we can cut off that excess. Okay, so that's great and flat. So 7 is done. We need 5, 3, 1. Actually, you can even see what happens when I get to 1. You'll see how those triangles work. So again, this time, let me check off my row. Because I didn't check it off the last time. So I have the same thing that's going to happen here. And then I have a different color over here. So let's start with this one. Let's move 1 up here because 1 is throwing me off. Put 1 next to 3 because 1 is throwing me off that I did not finish that, and I did. Okay, so I did row 1. I'm gonna check that off. So now I'm on row 3, orange and burnt and purple. Okay. So that's gonna go like that. And you'll notice, usually when I worked, and especially when I made the blocks, I didn't use clips. But I'm using clips. Number 1, I want to keep these in place. And number 2, just because it's going to help me to keep everything lined up the way that I need to line it up. Okay, so then on this side, this is row 2. This is a green and brown. Is it? May not be. Nope. Okay. This is a purple, as you can't see. Okay. Yeah, that's a purple in this one. And we're going to flip that. And what I'm going to do, just because I have this open and it just makes more sense to do this while I'm looking at it, because this is just going to be a sew straight down for both of these. I'll finish that one. Let me move on to this one. This is a orange and a purple. Because we've done the same, like I said, it's the same thing now. And this, it changed, and it changes directions. And that's why you had to cut these in 2 different ways. But this is just going to go ahead and get these blocks out of these triangles out of the way for me. So I don't have to think about them. So I only have 3 more rows to do. And then stitch the rows together, and then all the rows are done. And then I stitch the rows together, and then I'm finished. Okay. So that's there. Let's do the one. Okay. And then this is this. And so, okay. Let me see if I can show this like this, just so you can see it. Okay. So you can kind of see those points. Okay. So this is going to be the corner. These are going to get cut off. And then I'm going to have a triangle that goes like that. That's going to finish this off to make the corners. So these are the corner squares that I'm going to need. And that's going to be out the block that I have sitting off to the side. And so that's why, like, they're all meeting up right now for the quilt, so that I will have all those corners. And like I said, these 2 corners are finished. The other 2 will come together when I put those 2 big pieces together. And of course, you know, I will shift and show you the final thing once it's done. Okay. So all of the rows have their side triangles on, with the exception, I mean, they're clipped on, they're not sewn on yet. So we have all those done, and we just need to sew 1, 2, 3, and then attach it to 4, and then that side, that bottom side will be done. Then we'll stitch the 2 together, the 2 big pieces together. The whole quilt top, with the exception of the corners, will be done. We'll cut that 1 big square to create those 4 corners. We'll attach them, and the whole quilt top will be done. And if you know me, you know I am good for a quilt top. Now I'm good for a quilt. It's just that I have more quilt tops than I have quilts. But if I find a purpose for the quilt top, quilt top, then it becomes a quilt faster. So I did sit up with the No Sleep crew last night. I was in the comments heckling as always. And I absolutely finished quilting one of the quilt tops that was in my stash. This weekend, I also finished quilting the pink and green ladies that represented Elphaba and Glinda. So I quilted them. I'm going to turn it into a bag. So I just quilted them. I didn't finish them. I have another pattern test that I did, Ella Baker, and I just need to finish quilting her, and then she's just going to be a simple wall hanging. And then I have some more that are ready to go. So I said I was going to get at least 2 done a month, and I am ahead of schedule. But to know me is to know that I'm really not ahead of schedule, because y'all know that I have more quilt tops than just those. I have a lot of table runners. Table runners are like lickety split. Some of them I am going to do on my domestic machine, and some of them I am going to do on my long arm machine. Again, we go straight across. You really do use the lines in your rulers to make sure that everything is nice and straight. We'll cut off that excess. Okay. And again, now you can see this, right? So there is another piece that goes here that is going to help make that top part. So this one is sewn together. We need these 2 sewn together. And I could wait till the end to to straighten those little ends off, or I could do them as I go. Doesn't matter, as long as you get them done. We are still on bobbin number 1. So I did put a new bobbin in there before I started today. I always want to start at the end that lines up, because if it's a little wonky, it'll smooth itself out at the end that I'm going to trim off. And I could feel it. Like, I was like, you know what, something's going to be a little wonky, and sure enough. You don't want to pull it, so you just want to line it up. You do want to make sure that your blocks are square. So for example, if she tells you your blocks should be 8 inches square, you do want to make sure they're 8 inches square. If they are over and under, it will throw you off. And over or under by a lot, but they really shouldn't be if you followed the seam allowance and the exact measurements. So they really shouldn't be too far off. And the key word in there is shouldn't. It was a word that when I took a counseling class, like, we learned. Maybe, you know, we say what people should do, and that's not good thinking, because everybody's not going to do what we think they should do. Like, Jennifer should get up early in the morning and work out. Jennifer should eat a good breakfast every morning, but that doesn't always happen. Woo! The snow is coming down now. So it is snowing outside, and it's sticking. It's not terrible. It's still, I can go get my milk weather. I really don't need, like I said, I don't have to have the milk, but I just want it. Okay, so 1, 2, and then the last one that needs the pieces sewn together, and then all we have left are to do are the rows. You don't want to leave that overhang on, because it'll create bulk that you don't need. So that's the purpose of trimming that end so that everything is nice and straight. Okay. And I'm sitting here looking at my bobbin. My bobbin's getting ready to run out. I don't believe in wasting thread, so I'm not like changing it until I have to, but I may have to before I sew the rows together. Whoops. And apparently my machine didn't like that. Didn't like that comment. Okay, so it's not much left here. That's all I had. They were like, yeah, go girl, go ahead and play if you want to. We're gonna make you change it. Okay, so let's change it out. I have all of my thread. Now I will say this, with the colors that I have in here, I absolutely don't have to use white. I could use the oranges and run those bobbins out. I could use the yellow and run that out. I could use the green and run that out. I could use a lot of these colors. I wouldn't necessarily use red because I don't want that to pop through because it's not a color in the quilt. I could use the brown, so I do have options. So one thing that I love about, thank you. I don't know if the Black Sewing Network, if they have any more shirts. I know that if you check out their website, I know Carmen was running them out, so she may have some of these left, I'm not sure. But there was a whole summer series, and she gave out t-shirts for everybody who attended the summer series, and I went to all 3. I was like, yes. But I also felt like how do I not go? And all the events were in Philly. I mean, if I had something to do or if I couldn't afford it, you know, I get it. But yeah, I didn't have those excuses. So there was no reason why, you know, I could not show up and support, because Black Sign Network has been very supportive of me along this journey, and encouraging, because I don't know that I would be this far if they hadn't pushed me and encouraged me. So absolutely, what do you need? I got you. But I know that she had some left over and she was absolutely, you know, reducing inventory for these. So there is an event, a Black History event, more like a sew-along, if you will. There'll be some prizes and other things. But that'll be next Saturday, and check the website out. There may be some tickets still left. Did I sew that? Yep, yes I did. Okay. And of course, yes, I plan to be there. Now, will I be on time is another story, but I will be there. And the only reason why I say that is because I try not to miss my training sessions on Saturdays. Because then, you know, my trainer's like, you know, you could have worked out. Because he just mean like that. And so it's like, okay, so I could get up at the crack of dawn, work out with him, and then go straight to the event from there. And I probably, if anything, would only miss like a half an hour. And yeah, well, we won't discuss the weight that I've gained, but you know, yeah, like I said, he ain't trying to hear it. Okay, so we have the 7. So what gets added to the 7 is a 5. Did I do that right? Or is this the 5? This is the 5. So let me say that again. We had a 5. What gets added to the 5 is the 7 and the 3. Okay, I see it. This is the 3. So we're going to add the 3 to the 5. We'll add that 7 on there, but since I have this right here, I'll add these 2 on. So again, I'm matching up my orange here. This is going to be overhang. That's where I messed up before. I went to the first orange and then tried to measure it up, but it's not the first one that I needed to measure up. I mean, I needed to line up. It was the second one. And if I didn't drop all the clips on the floor, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I dropped them on the floor. I'm remembering that I dropped them on the floor now. When I get up, I won't remember that I dropped them on the floor. And that's why I'm always buying more clips, because then I step on the clips. Because it would be too much like right to pick those clips up off the floor now. So we're just clipping. So this is the 3 to the 5. I can clip then the 1 to the 5 and then, the 1 to the 3, and then I'll clip the 3 to the 7, the 5 to the 7, and then I can put both 7s together. Cool beans. Okay, so they're clipped together. And if I want to, because I can, I could clip the next one together, but that's going to drive me crazy, so I'm not going to do it. So let's run this. I should have overhang. Again, it's not much because it's only a 1/4 inch seam that I need, but there should be overhang. It should not be lining up. And that's key. Because if they line up, it's going to throw things off. It will not be the end of the world. It's on the edge of your quilt. And again, most people, if you're gifting them a quilt, are not looking at the ends to see that you messed up, number one. Number two, unless they're looking at the complete pattern, which I doubt, they're not going to know what it should look like. So the quilt police, the quilt designer, and you are the only people that are going to know that something is off. No one else will know. The good thing is even if your lines are a little off, like I'm clipping these, it's possible that the fabric could still shift. The good thing is that once I quilt it, it miraculously, because it's close enough, it like disappears into the pattern. And I'm like, okay. I thought that was off. It doesn't look off now until you look like really, really close. But again, I haven't had anybody complain about anything that I've done. And they take pictures and they say thank you. Now, folks may not like a color. So like if you're not a pink person, then a pink quilt might not work for you. But, you know, they're not complaining about the design. Especially if it's a gift. So, or if her name was Sarah G, my mother. But she didn't complain too much either. Oh, she only did a little bit. Usually, you know, she was happy that her daughter made or something. Okay. So that you can see, again, see how all the oranges are going to line up. And that should be all the way throughout. Okay. We're going to take 3 and attach 1 to 3. Okay. Now Carmen sends me the DM. Okay, now I see it. But and so let me back up for a minute, just because she did it earlier, and I'll do it now. So like those shameless plugs, and I'll do it when I post it as well, because I don't need that one anymore. So this is the twin quilt Love Nest, and again it's by Sugarstone Quilts. So that's sugarstone.com, sugarstonequilts.com. And right now, if you want to pick up the pattern for this, you can get the Love Nest pattern. It's Love Nest BSN, and you can pick it up from there and get a little discount on the pattern. So maybe I should have told her I was going to do it. I could have got the discount before. No, that's fine. I don't mind supporting, like I said, small businesses, so it's not a problem. Shamir, darling. Oh, Shamir coming for me. She always comes for me. So I haven't decided yet. There are a few things that I could take with me. So, and one of them is actually not a quilt. Mm. Now, I'm not going to go to anything sewing and embarrass myself with a garment or a bag. Like, I'm not doing that. So, unless it's a garment that I know that I can make. So, there is a pattern, and again, it would line up right nicely with Black Sewing Network for the month for Black veteran designers. So, is it the Sewing Cafe? Social? It's something. I can't put my finger on the name of the group. But they sell Ankara fabric. They sell they sell different patterns, and they have a jacket that is made out of essentially a jelly roll. And you know, I have all my strips already cut. So if I actually take the time this week to sew those strips together, I could cut the jacket out and make the jacket. The jacket is lined, so I would not need to have a serger to finish it. However, I am serging the strips together because that was one of the suggestions that somebody made that made the jacket. So I'm thinking about that. I have a couple other quilts that I could work on, quilt tops, because like I feel like, yeah, you need to finish something. And so you can absolutely take that there and get that, you know, done. The only quilt tops that I tend to do on this machine now are like table runners, table toppers, and like mini quilts, because they're like, I can do a straight stitch on this. I can do a simple meander with this machine that is a little harder to control on my Bernina. So I'm trying to think about like what it is that I want. Hey, Renee. So I'm just debating. I knew Shamir was going to come for me with that. Okay. So again, you can see right now, the other half is almost done. Right? So we have one more row. I'm like, I want to call it a layer. I was like, it's not a layer. I got one more row that I need to add. So there's two more like final stitches, if you will, to finish the main part of the top, the majority of the top. And then the only thing that I have left to do is those corners. So we're almost done. And again, this was not difficult. This is a lot of straight stitching. There's not a lot of half square triangles or different intricate cuts. The blocks are big enough that you could manage it. My stomach said, girl, you did not feed me. That's only if y'all heard it. I was like, what was that? And we are at the bigger part. Those clips are even more important. Hey, Julian. Julian, I was on Sewing Parts Online, and I was like, they had the exploding heart. And I'm telling you, yours is so wonderful that I'm just like, I need to make one now. And I am not a half square triangle person. Then the other thing is that while I was going through all of my quilt tops, guess who found the quilt top that you made, what was that, 2 years ago? When you did the sew along for the quilt, for the modal one? So I have it, and of course that isn't finished either. So that's in my pile of quilt tops to finish. I know. I should, but y'all, them half square triangles will take you out. And you know, you're just so calm and even, like just even. Me, I would be sitting there cussing, fussing, arguing, especially because I would have to square them things up. And I'm just like, I don't feel like all that. But I just, every time I see you and I see it, I'm just like, wow. But now I do want to use my Ankara scraps because I do like that look when I've seen that from other quilters who have made it. Plus I can use up all the scraps because Grace has a sale, gets me in a chokehold. Like, Grace knows how to make me buy fabric. Just put it on sale. Then I'm like, okay, we dropping at least $100. Look, flying geese are my enemy as well. And Julian would get on there and he was just like working his way through it. And Julian's all nice and just calm. So you didn't know he was cussing and fussing. So I don't even want to hear that. Like my type of mild-mannered man. But thank you again for everyone who has joined in. If there is anyone new, again, my name is Jennifer Hale, affectionately known as Dr. Jen, Dr. Hale. I am filling in. Quilt Girlie's taking over Sunday service for the Black Sewing Network. And we are working on a quilt by an African-American designer. The name of the company, if you will, is Sugarstone Quilts. I absolutely love this when I saw it. I loved it in her colorway, but I could not justify buying all of the fabrics that she used. Well, I could justify it. I didn't need to justify that when I have so many different Ankara prints here at home. So friends and family, whenever they see the prints, because that's what I wear at work most of the time, they are good for saying, we know what to get you. So they get me the fabric. And then I have all this fabric at home. Like, let me blame everybody else but myself. And usually I make like a dress out of it. But in the last year or so, I have been making more quilts out of it, especially the scraps. So I do have a lot of quilts that I have either given away, gifted, that I have hanging up at work, or even I have a room, I call it my Kwanzaa room, where I do have a lot of the Ankara fabric as the focal fabric for that project. If you could see outside my window. So I have the nerve, like I decorate for Christmas. And then I don't take the stuff down. So it's almost March. It's Black History Month. And my Christmas tree is still up with the Christmas decorations on it. And my and I still have the Santas up. But I have a window. And even though it's Christmas, like it has a Christmas tree because it's Charlie Brown Christmas, it also has snow in the window, like the buffalo snow that you put up. So that stays like, so when I look out the window, it looks like there's snow on the windowsills, even when there's not. So it's yeah, I'm looking out the window like, wow, look at the snow. And then I look at what I have up there and it really looks like there's a lot of snow. And to know me is to know I don't like snow like that. 1, 2, did I get, okay. We have to do this in the right direction. Okay. So we have now 2 pieces. And it would help if Jennifer had these pieces in the right direction so that they're going in the right way. So it's 7, 5, 3, 1. And we had 7, 5. Wait a minute, is that right? 7, 5, 3, 1. So now what we're doing is taking those 2 and putting them together to create one long quilt. And remember I told you those ends are going to have those 2 pieces and it's going to be flat in the middle. So that way I know I did it right. Because again, I'm going to keep saying it. You know I can mess up. So this is going to also require the most amount of clips. So I will say this, the one thing about this Ankara fabric, and again, because it's a little different from using like a quilter's cotton, it doesn't necessarily give you the stretch that you want. So there's not a whole lot of stretch in here when I'm trying to get it to go and get those seams to line up. And I'm okay with that. But just know that, you know, there's a little less fight in here that I have than I usually have when I'm using complete quilter's cotton. So there's, and the quilter's cotton itself is enclosed by this fabric. So there, I'm not putting quilter's cotton up against these edges. This is Ankara against Ankara, and with a little bit of batik. But the great thing is that, this is taking a little longer than I thought it would, but that's fine because I lied to myself when I said it would only take 2 hours. That I was hoping it would take 2 hours. But it won't go in the 3. So that's good. And then considering what time I started, you know, technically I didn't start sewing exactly at 3 o'clock. So if we consider that, then I'm making really good time. But this is the last seam for the rows. So that's good. I only have the 1 seam to put the rows together. And then I have 4 seams, and they're small seams, really small, for the corners. So I just need to cut that block, and then I need to attach those corners. Okay, and here's the block here. So I'm going to move that because this is, like I said, now you can see this is humongous on this table. So once I finish this, what I don't want to do is push the block off the table. And then I can just do that one cut. Okay, line everything up. Okay, add a little bit of a back stitch. And as long as everything is straight, I can add a little bit of power to the machine, but I don't want to add a lot. Because again, I still have seams underneath that I want to make sure are straight. Now, I know I do have a habit, even though I know that I should have had enough bobbin to get through, I do like to check, because this is the longest seam in the whole quilt, and what we don't want to do is have to go back and stitch. Because we thought, because then you also have to go back and clip or pin. So please make sure that you are checking your bobbin, because this was a lot of clips, and to have to go back into that is a pain. And these are a series of straight lines. So again, because of all the straight lines and I'm not crossing over something, I didn't have to press as I went, because it's almost like a grid, so I can press at the end. So that's the great thing about this pattern as well. Because if you're like me, you don't like to get up to go to the big iron, and you don't have to move things around for the small one. We are 3/4 of the way done. Thank you, Shamir. I like to call it a throw. But like I said, I'm not, who has a twin bed other than kids? I'm not doing all this work for no child. No, but that's just me. But I think it fits real well, like on the sofa. Throw it over the sofa. And for like us tall or big girls, like, you know, it's enough room. Throws sometimes, they can just work like right around your shoulders and or on your lap, and it's like, there's not enough room to snuggle up in. I don't know about it being quiet. I know one thing. I know it's fighting me right now because it's like, girl, you know, this needle needs to be changed. So we will be changing this needle because, yeah. And it hasn't been that long, but I've done quite a few projects. So it needs it. Okay, I think I had 2 corners that I didn't do. So again, now, all of this is done, right? We have this end because we just joined these together. So now that we've joined everything together, these two need to be cut off on this side. And we're just gonna go ahead and do that before we move everything out the way. And then we have the opposite because remember we did 2 already. Okay, we get ready to knock every pin that we had, every clip that we had on the floor. Then I would be doing pickup sticks with the, and yes, I am using the screen to cut that off. Okay. And then there should be one in the opposite corner because we did 2 already. So we're doing the last 2. And you can see how it didn't necessarily even up, but once I cut that off, it's not even gonna matter. So here are the corners, right? So this is not a corner yet because it needs another piece here. In comes our last block. And it's the biggest block. It better be the biggest block. And of course I closed up the instructions like I didn't have anything else to do. Now I already know what I need to do, but what I'm doing is just making sure that what I need to do is really what I need to do and the way I need to do it, because I don't want to mess this one up, because I will absolutely need to make another one if I mess it up. So they give us the directions for this and it's just corner to corner. That's all we're doing. So this was just like the other blocks. Now this block is bigger than my ruler. So I am going to have to line everything up using my mop. And if I slide this over a little bit, you might be able to see it if I show it to you this way. There's a line on my mat. I can use that line on my mat. Nope, because this is not square. Yes, I can. There we go. I can use the line on the mat, excuse me, to help me with the cut. So this is going exactly through the center. I'm going to make sure everything lines up the way that it needs to. Slide my ruler down. And this is going to take some thought and some precision. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it to be as close as possible. I can see through the white to the corner. But I'm taking my time, lining everything up. And then now let's do a cut. We're going to stop a little short. We can slide that up, but we're using the diagonal line on the mat to help with that cut. If I can help it, I'm going to try to keep those two together. There's another diagonal going this way. I just need to shift it a little bit because I didn't do it. Just to move it up. And then I'm going to cut the other corner. Okay. Now, Jennifer was able to sit down the entire time. Jennifer can't sit for this one. And then we can cut. We're just going to move this down. Okay, so this got two cuts. Okay, and you'll see it's a little pieces left here and here. There's one over here in this corner, not a problem. And now we get to match up our corners to get those corners straight. Now, how those corners are going to come into play, because it looks like it should be common sense. No, common sense isn't common. Okay. I want to see which corner is which corner for me. So I want to be able to see what I'm doing the way that I need to. So I'm going to put this in the same order that it is on the pattern page. So I have orange here. I have the purple here. And they're asking me to put this here, which would make sense because it's purple here and then this one here. So line that one up. Now, to get this right, you're supposed to. So let me show you the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to take this, find the center. And I'm just going to put a clip there. Then you're going to take this and find the center. So that you line the centers up. Now, I would have eyeballed it, but let me show it to you the way it's supposed to be done. Now, I pinched it, which gave it a little bit of fold, and then I clipped it. So I line those folds up, and then I just spread these out. And it should have about a 1/4 inch overhang on either side. But here's the thing. I'm not worried about that completely, because if it's even closer than a 1/4 inch, when I square this quilt up and I take some of that excess off, it isn't going to matter anyway. So I am adding a couple extra clips to this side just because I'm going to do a lot of turning with this, and I want to make sure that if some of the clips come off, it doesn't make the whole thing come off. Okay, so this should be the second. This is the next corner up at the top, if I'm following the directions correctly. Okay, so then this one gets this. And again, they say pinch it, but I could, because it's not that much to it that I need to worry about it. I just want to make sure I have overhang on both sides. least a 1/4 inch. And we're going to clip. And I'm just rotating this around, and I'm actually following directions because I want to make sure that this is right. Because I don't want to rip this out. That's going to be a pain in my side to have to rip this out. So I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. So this is the next corner, and it's calling for this. And so the last corner should match up the way that it's supposed to. And again, you might say, well, Jennifer, why didn't you just sew it, right? Because I want to make sure I do it right. And I want to make sure that if something's wrong, that I can catch them all together. That's just me. But you absolutely could have done one side each. Stitched it and then did the next one. I also want to make sure that I'm reading this right, so that if I make the mistake, then all I'm taking is the clips out. I'm not taking out the entire quilt. That I don't want to do. I mean, the entire stitch. That I don't want to do. So I want to make sure that everything I'm doing is correct. This is my orange, and then this is that last piece. And I feel like, yeah, that's right, because you could see it here. You have orange, and then this, and then orange, and then this. So it makes sense. It is what it's supposed to be. But also, like I said, this is the last 4 stitches that I have to make, and I just want to make sure that I don't have to seam rip it, because so far I haven't had to seam rip at all on live. And that's uncalled for me. And that doesn't mean that once I hang it up, I'm not going to have to seam rip something. Okay, so let's get these 4 corners on. And once these 4 corners are on, the quilt top will be done. We can hang it up on our wall. I can switch the camera around so you can see what that'll look like. And it is going to be massive on my wall. See, Mother Nature said, we're going to hold up long enough for her to do this live so she can go to the store and get her milk. I have yogurt. I have oatmeal. I mean, I have everything I need. And I just, like, a part of me wants this milk. I got stuff to make cookies that I don't need to make. Okay, almost done here. Oops. And so, yes, absolutely, without a whole lot of time. I have a full-time job. I do 25 billion thousand other things. And this quilt top, I will take, let me see, if I talk about the other blocks, I would say 2 hours, 2 hours. I would say that this took me no longer than maybe 6 hours to put the whole thing together, and that's doing it live. So this is not a long process. because I would move a lot faster if I wasn't talking about the parts of the quilt, if I wasn't, showing, the process. So this is not a quilt that takes a long time to do. And I say 6 hours for me, and we know that other folks who are doing something similar would say, okay, so if it takes you 6, it's going to take me double that time, right? But even 12 hours is not a long time, because you're not sitting the whole time making it. You're going to break it up into parts, and you're going to do it piece by piece. And so you would make all of the blocks that, you would cut all your fabric out. And then after you cut all your fabric out and arrange everything, then you're going to start with the blocks. And then once you put the blocks together, then like I did today, you're putting the rows together. And then after you put the rows together, it's time to quilt it. And the great thing I like about this is I don't have to use a fancy pattern. I could absolutely use lines. I could absolutely stitch in the ditch for this, absolutely, and then do lines in the center. So this doesn't require some sort of deep pattern, if you will, of some sort of quilting pattern. So this, I believe it or not, with a little bit of work, I could quilt this whole thing on this domestic machine. Okay. So we know somebody needs to press their quilt that they're not going to press right now, but you can see from here, and then we'll just take us to the wall, because I can show it on the wall better than I can show it on the screen, even at an angle. And the question is this going to fit on the whole wall? Because I have to find the center to hang it, and then hang off the other pieces. So this is actually bigger than my wall. It's actually longer than the wall. But I can get it, I think, just about to where I need it to be. And then this is like one of those put on the bed or go outside and do a quilt drop quilt. Okay, let me move this out the way. Let me stand back for a second. Make sure it doesn't look too crazy. I haven't done a big one in a long time. Okay. Now I think what I need to do is okay. Let me pull it off of the base. And I'll pull the plug out. And then leave it to me to turn the camera around. Nope, that wasn't it. Flip. There it is. So that would be the whole thing unironed. So of course I need to take that upstairs to my bigger iron and ironing board, and then I am able to get that whole thing pressed out, and then I can do what I need to do. Thank you. Then I can do what I need to do to get it quilted. Thank you, Mika. Thank you, Shim. Thank you, Sabs. Thank you, RV. And it goes like you can see it. It's like it's on the floor and it's almost up to the ceiling. So this is a big quilt. That's a really big quilt. But I love how like the orange pops through it. Even though I used the two different prints, so for the green and for the brown with the orange in there, even though the purple's there, the purple pulls out some colors without making it look like it doesn't fit. But that's also because there's that pattern to it. And so I love that effect with it. And like this was, I want to say each of those fabrics were maybe like a yard. Maybe a yard for each one, 1, 2, 3, 4 fabrics. And then it was about maybe 2 1/4 yards for the white. And this could be done with black. It could have been done with green. We could have pulled out the blue in there. So we didn't have to use the white to get that done. But I love, like I said, how this came out. I think it came out really, really cute. But it's done. I could add a border to it. So if you look up at the top, I can either finish the edge off like she did, or if I wanted to make this bigger, let's say I don't want a twin, I could add a thin border of something, like let's say a black, go all the way around 2.5 inches black, and then from there, pull one of the fabrics that's in the quilt and do like a 6-inch border all the way around. So that would give me another 12 inches to this to be able to lay it out on like a full size or a queen size bed. So I could make this bigger without adding additional blocks by adding borders. So this would lay on top of my bed, the print would, and then what would fall over to the sides would be the borders. So I could add borders to it if I chose, or I could leave it like it is. But again, like I'm going to leave it like it is. It's taller than me right now. So this is big enough to wrap up in, and you can't see it but on one side it's wrapping around the wall and it's wrapping around the wall in the kitchen. So it's really big. So this is a great quilt. Again, it is, what do you call it? It is a twin size. So it's a great twin size quilt that you could make. Flip that back around and put this back on the base. It's a great size that you can make with it. Those are all the projects that I need to finish that I said I was going to work on. But that's beside the point. I digress to what I just finished today. So again, that's her layout, which I did show you already. As we're getting ready to close out, I do want to thank everybody for joining me today for the live part 2 of the Love Nest. It is finished. The quilt top is finished. It just needs me to give it a good press and starch. And then I need to think about what I want on the back. So do not come for me because that might take a minute. And so here is the pattern. So do I have it backwards now? Or did I put it right back right around? Yeah, that's right. So Love Nest pattern is a twin quilt pattern. It is Sugarstone Quilts. And we have a code. So Love Nest 2025. Oh, isn't he cute? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Will. Oh, for the sparkle pony. Thank you. I've never seen that one before. So, Love Nest 20, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this wrong, right? Love Nest BSN. So it's Love Nest BSN, you will get 25% off. So absolutely, if you're planning on getting this pattern, I would get it. You can always go back because I will post these on YouTube. But I will always sit with you and do any pattern that you want if you would like to do that. Yes, he does. He absolutely, because Will is phenomenal. He's my sweetheart. It's one of my sweethearts. So thank you, Karen. So again, Love Nest, twin quilt pattern, Sugarstone Quilts. It was my pleasure to do this pattern this month, featuring it for the Black Sewing Network for our Black History Month. So go on to Sugarstone Quilts. There are other quilts on her website as well, so you can check those out and work through it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me on Tuesday and on Thursday, Tuesday and today. If you joined me for both sessions, thank you for joining me today. If it was just for today, for Quilt Girlies taking over. So, I'm turning back over to those garment people and those bag people so they can go ahead and make their stuff. But thank you so much. Yes, Renee, I'm still waiting for you. I made my bag. That's all I'm going to say. So thank you again for the likes. Thank you for the gifts. I really appreciate you. And I thank you for hanging out with me. We were a little bit longer than 2.5 hours, but we got it done. That's the important part. So thanks again. Have a great one. Again, get your tickets for BSN for next Saturday. If you're going to join us here in Philly, there were only a few tickets left. And have a great evening. Stay safe if you're on the East Coast because the snow is coming down. It's not hard yet, but it's coming. We'll be home tomorrow, so I might be slipping online if they don't keep me too busy. So I'll see you then. Have a good one.